Sorry, go ahead, Sabrina.
When did you realize that you could do animation as a career? Because I'm pretty sure that was something that was like, always a question for you when you were little, right? Because we're not taught that, at least at our age, we weren't back then.
That's a good question. Like, I think I realized I could do it as a, wow, this is a really funny answer I'm going to give you. Okay, no one's ever asked me this before. I've never actually told people this. Okay, so when I was a freshman in high school, maybe a sophomore, I was like on vacation in Florida or something, and we're eating breakfast, and the Captain Crunch box said like that there was this big contest for a Nickelodeon contest for Danny Phantom, and you have to like draw a ghost, and whoever like enter the ghost, and if you win, you get flown out to the studio and you meet Butch Hartman and all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, I want to go to Nickelodeon. And I was like, I'm still like, I'm like old at this point, but I'm still like this like secret child or whatever. And I'm like, I want to go to the studio, whatever. So, whatever, I drew a ghost or whatever, and I sent it in. It was terrible. It never in a million years would win. But that kind of gave me the opportunity. And I wasn't even watching Danny Phantom, by the way. I didn't really even know what it was. I just wanted to go to Nickelodeon. But that kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of research Nickelodeon and be like, whoa, like this is a place where people work, and like they draw things and they make cartoons here. Like I was kind of processing it, realizing this isn't, Nickelodeon, they don't just like shit out cartoons and this magic cloud. Like there's humans doing it at this place. And it kind of didn't hit me till I was like 13 or 14 or whatever. So I started watching Danny Phantom after that Captain Crunch box, which I still have the Captain Crunch box. Like I guess sort of, there's something wrong with me if I still have that.
That's crazy.
I hold on to memories like a weirdo. But anyway, I got obsessed with Danny Phantom and became like this, my whole I realized I wanted to work at Nickelodeon officially after kind of watching Danny Phantom and being like, I want to work on that show. Like, I want to go to that studio. And I was like, I'm not going to win this fucking ghost contest, but I want to go there. So I kind of just became obsessed with figuring out how to get in the studio one day. And I did. I actually did. Oh, it took me a while, though. It took me a while.
Yeah, so let's take us on that journey of how you figured that out. So, were you somebody who like always drew all the time, or was that something that like did you draw since a young age, or is that something that came later?
That's the thing. Like, it's funny you mentioned that because it's interesting. Like, I have always drawn my whole life, but I was never interested in becoming a great artist. I was only interested in telling the story and like developing characters, creating character chemistry, personalities, like making worlds, just being a creator. And the whole like sit down, learn the construction of a head and draw a hand, that shit bored me to death, to the point where I never really learned how to draw well. And like, if you watch my videos, like the drawings aren't horrible, but you could tell I'm not qualified to be an artist in the industry at this point. Like I could draw to make cartoons, like funny doodly cartoons. But I'm not a great drawer. So like, I hate telling people I've been drawing my whole life because they probably think I'm so good at drawing when I'm horrible. I'm not, I'm not like stick figure level. I can draw, but I doodle because all I care about, like, honestly, is like the ideas of it all and creating and the actual.
You're pure cartoons.
Yeah. Like I'm a creator at heart. Like I love. Yeah. The thing that makes me so happy is sitting in a writer's room with a bunch of talented people, just bouncing ideas off each other and making worlds, and like, oh, like that's my jam.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm under the impression that, a good story is a good story, whether it's told with like highly rendered, realistic characters or stick figures. If it's a good story, it's it pulls the viewer in. and it, engages you regardless of how you choose to tell that story. I think it seems like you're a storyteller first and foremost, But in the beginning when we told stories, we just told them around a campfire as cavemen, or whatever. We didn't have television or anything like that, just cave drawings, and it still worked.
Oh, that's such a good point. I never thought of that. Yeah, and that's what you're saying is so true, because the YouTube community that I'm in right now is living proof of that, because a lot of people in the community, it's called the storytime animation community, the sort of genre I'm in on YouTube. You know how there's niches in every in YouTube? This is the storytime animation community that I'm in, and basically there are people in this community that draw literal stick figures types of art, and Swoozy is a good example. He's a really big YouTuber. And I think he has 6 million subscribers or something like that. I have no idea, but something huge. And he started out by drawing basic stick figures, and people loved him because his stories and the way he executed, the way he told his stories were just so funny and had so much personality. So it's just like what you said. It's you can draw caveman drawings. It's the execution of the story that matters. Yeah.
For sure, and I think part of the benefit of, just drawing stick figures or simplified characters is you can, do more content than if you're doing a highly rendered frame by frame, television level animation,
Yeah, that's exactly that's why I'm kind of learning that too. I mean, I've that's the good thing about working in production at Titmouse Inc. for 4 years or so. I worked there as a coordinator, and I learned a lot about when I used to sit in the background meetings and stuff. How can we reuse this background? Let's not have that many one-off backgrounds, and that's another cool thing about TV is trying to fit it all in a tight schedule and hitting those small deadlines. I learned all that before I became a YouTuber. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to draw, I can't have 20 backgrounds per video. I have to keep it down to a certain number. And it comes down it's almost like a mathematical thing at the end of the day. Yeah.
It's really interesting because, I work in production as well. I don't work on the art end of things, and that's pretty much, me and the coordinators that I work with, that's our daily life, figuring out how to make the show cheaper and faster and hit our deadlines, cutting back character angles, cutting back, scenes from the boards that use a special pose that we don't need, or a weird background that doesn't make any sense. So that's what we do every single day. And it's interesting that you take those skills that you learn as a coordinator and kind of integrate them into your own work, because if, let's say, you just jumped in at Raw without ever working in animation first, you might be killing yourself trying to do all these new drawings and stuff without knowing how to do it economically, so it was kind of good to have that experience. I guess it was invaluable to have that experience first. But before we get to all this YouTube stuff, which is going to be really interesting to get to, should I do the intro again, or are we good to go?
All right. Oh, there we go.
Let's go.
So there was an intro, and then there was about 45 seconds to a minute of awkwardness. That will serve as our musical intro today, just us rambling about nothing. And now, here we are.